look like Sophie Cunningham is back in the headlines.
Sophie Cunningham appears to be dominating the news cycle once more. Never one to hold back her views, she managed to ignite a digital firestorm this time. The controversy ignited when reports surfaced that NBA player Terry Rozier would still collect his $26 million salary while facing federal charges. Sophie felt compelled to speak out. Her impassioned response went viral on social media, sparking a massive discussion about privilege, justice, and hypocrisy in the world of professional sports. The public was split, players offered their own takes, and the issue soon became a national talking point. However, what Sophie declared next left everyone, the NBA included, utterly speechless.
Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups look like they both has made bond. Well, look like Sophie Cunningham made it her business to speak on the entire situation.
The situation began when it was confirmed that Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier would draw his entire $26 million salary despite facing federal gambling allegations. This news shot through social media, prompting widespread incredulity. An athlete under investigation for illegal betting was still earning millions while the case unfolded. This prompted many to question how such a scenario was possible for a league that champions integrity and transparency. The NBA, already facing scrutiny over its disciplinary procedures, found itself embroiled in yet another major controversy.
This right here was released, and Sophie commented on it. Let me blow this up here. It says NBA player Terry Rozier will still receive his full $26,000 salary. No, $26 million salary. Sorry about that. $26 million salary while on leave from the NBA after being arrested on federal gambling charges.
Analysts began to delve into the matter, explaining that Rozier's contract was shielded under the league's collective bargaining agreement. A player's income cannot be garnished unless a conviction is secured. While this technicality ensured his payments continued, it was widely seen as blatant favoritism. While other athletes receive immediate suspensions for lesser offenses, Rozier's earnings were unaffected. To many observers, it was another stark illustration of the NBA's inconsistent standards, a different set of rules for its stars.
Now, he's probably still going to see this because he's not been convicted of anything. And that's the only thing I could think of. Now, Sophie Cunningham retweeted this and stated, "No way. Please tell me this is fake." I definitely believe that's real.
As the backlash intensified, the dialogue expanded beyond the sports world. Politicians, veterans, and celebrities started to comment, contrasting Rozier's situation with the difficulties ordinary Americans face for much smaller infractions. Questions arose about the equity of a system where the ultra-wealthy can proceed unscathed while others struggle. The controversy grew so heated that rumors suggested Congress and federal agencies were demanding briefings from the league. It was then that the discussion took an unforeseen twist, as WNBA star Sophie Cunningham joined in. Seeing a fundamental injustice, she refused to stay silent. With one decisive tweet, she jumped into the heart of the storm, turning the focus from Rozier directly onto herself.
Terry Rozier getting paid while our troops are waiting at food pantries. This is criminal. I have to agree with that. Now, you know, when Andy say that really got you. Damn, you know, that's fucked up. It goes on to say, "Welcome back to Twitter, Sophie. Your commentary is one of the best things on this app."
As the story of Terry Rozier's salary broke, most athletes stayed silent, wary of making waves during a delicate period for the NBA. Sophie Cunningham, however, is not like most athletes. Known for her unfiltered honesty, she saw the situation as more than an isolated sports controversy. It was a symptom of a flawed system. She took to her phone, opened Twitter, and unleashed a message that resonated across the internet. "No way. Please tell me this is fake." Those 8 words hit with unexpected force. In minutes, her tweet was trending. Replies flooded in, some praising her for exposing hypocrisy, others accusing her of opportunism during the WNBA's offseason. Sophie, however, doubled down. She articulated what many were thinking, but were hesitant to say that it was criminal for an NBA star to be paid millions while soldiers and working families relied on food pantries. That single remark shifted the entire conversation. People weren't just reacting to her tone, they were connecting with her frustration. She had struck an emotional chord that transcended basketball. Sophie wasn't merely questioning a salary, she was challenging a culture of privilege that insulates certain athletes, while others fight for fair recognition. Her words were soon being debated on talk shows, podcasts, and online forums. Everyone was asking, was she speaking truth or just manufacturing drama for attention? Meanwhile, WNBA fans rallied behind her, viewing her tweet as a commentary on the profound inequality between men's and women's sports. To them, Sophie's anger wasn't misplaced, it was overdue. As the controversy swirled, it became obvious this was no longer just about Rozier. Sophie Cunningham had initiated a much larger dialogue that the NBA could not simply
Now,
ignore.
we know that they did their investigation, and they stated Terry Rozier was not in any wrongdoing. So if that is the case, I believe the Terry Rozier situation allegedly is why Congress is briefing Adam Silver, because Adam Silver and the NBA supposedly did an investigation on Terry Rozier, faking injuries, throwing games, and stuff like that, and they said that they didn't find them.
The moment Sophie Cunningham's tweet surfaced, the basketball world went into a frenzy. Thousands of fans, journalists, and players took to social media to offer their perspective. Within hours, her name was a top trend on Twitter and a fixture in sports headlines. Some commended her courage for highlighting what they considered a clear example of inequity, while others argued she was out of her lane for inserting herself into an NBA issue. The divide was instantaneous and sharp. Sophie's supporters celebrated her candor, emphasizing that WNBA players make comparable sacrifices for a tiny fraction of the pay. To them, Sophie was finally giving voice to what many women in professional sports had felt for years. The financial and ethical double standards are impossible to justify. They lauded her as brave and authentic for demanding fairness. However, her critics were equally vociferous. Some accused her of using the controversy to maintain relevance during her off-season. Others contended that Rozier deserved the presumption of innocence and that Sophie was inflaming public anger before the full story emerged. The arguments raged across comment threads and podcasts. As everyone took a position, major sports media also entered the fray, debating whether Sophie had crossed a boundary or started a necessary conversation about ethics. With each passing hour, the drama grew, and her every word was scrutinized. Through it all, one thing was clear: Sophie Cunningham had once again captured the off-season. Love her or hate her, she was at the core of the narrative, and the story was only intensifying.
Well, I'm here to tell you, the federal government, FBI, got a 96% conviction rate. Y'all know what a 96% conviction rate is? 96% conviction rate, which means that the government is not going to try anything that they know that they're going to lose, bro.
Sophie Cunningham's tweet did more than just provoke outrage. It rekindled one of the most contentious debates in sports today: the vast pay disparity between the NBA and WNBA. Her frustration signaled something far deeper than a single unfair situation. It was a symbol of decades of inequity that female athletes have had to navigate. While NBA players command massive contracts, many WNBA players must compete abroad in their offseason just to make a living. Sophie's reaction to Terry Rozier's $26 million salary served as a powerful reflection of that stark contrast. Fans began sharing side-by-side salary charts, some highlighting that Rozier would make more in a single game than many WNBA players earn in a whole season. Others wondered why a league that so often promotes equality still operates with such unbalanced economics. The discussion grew more poignant when Sophie's comment about troops and food pantries began to circulate. Her point was not solely about sports salaries, it was about core values and fairness. People began asking how a system could reward one athlete under investigation, while others, especially women, must continuously fight for recognition. Talk shows and podcasts immediately engaged with the topic. Former players and analysts discussed how labor agreements and media deals contribute to the imbalance. Some concurred with Sophie that the principle was flawed, regardless of the contractual rules. Others insisted that comparing leagues with different revenue models was not a fair parallel. But no matter the viewpoint, the dialogue had become impossible to ignore. Sophie had inadvertently leveraged her frustration into a national discussion about ethics and equality. For the first time in a while, the WNBA's voice was breaking through the NBA's media dominance, and Sophie was leading the way.
Sophie is definitely going to figure out a way to stay relevant and I commend her for that. That's what you got to do. You know, like for all the people talking about like rage-bait content, and man, at the end of the day, the name of the game is stay relevant and stay trending. And if you ain't trending and you ain't relevant, guess what? That make you irrelevant. So don't hate because, you know, you're irrelevant.
As Sophie's tweet continued its viral spread, the situation around Terry Rozier became even more serious. The involvement of the federal government transformed the scandal from a sports story into a national concern. Reports confirmed an FBI investigation into potential gambling violations tied to player behavior, and given the agency's 96% conviction rate, the public began to take the allegations with new gravity. Fans started to question the depth of potential corruption and whether the NBA had looked the other way to protect its brand. The silence from league officials was deafening. No official statement came from the NBA, Commissioner Adam Silver, or the Miami Heat, and this lack of response only bred more suspicion. Sports reporters sought answers but were consistently met with no comment. Rumors circulated that Congress had called for a private briefing with Adam Silver to understand the league's internal policies and the justification for Rozier's continued pay. For many, this was a pivotal moment. The NBA had long been viewed as a paragon of professionalism in sports, but it now faced an integrity crisis that could harm its reputation for years. Observing this, Sophie's commentary seemed to voice what millions were thinking. Her indignation was not just about the money, it was about a lack of accountability. Why should athletes and leagues get preferential treatment when ordinary people face swift consequences? In her view, this was a clear example of how money and fame often shield the powerful from the justice everyone else must answer to. The irony was palpable. The NBA, an organization that frequently preaches social responsibility, was now being accused of hypocrisy. Its silence only exacerbated the problem, turning a contractual loophole into a public relations catastrophe. And while Adam Silver remained mum, Sophie's voice became louder and impossible to disregard. Even prior to this controversy, Sophie Cunningham had cultivated a reputation as one of the most direct and media-savvy players in the WNBA. Whether it was through a fiery on-court exchange or a sharp social media commentary, she has always known how to keep her name in circulation. So, when her tweet about Terry Rozier exploded, few were surprised. It was seen as quintessential Sophie. Injured or not, she has perfected the art of staying in the public eye, and she once again found herself at the epicenter of a major discussion while her peers were quietly focused on the upcoming season. Sophie's off-season had already been active, filled with podcast appearances, fan updates, and online banter. But this tweet was different. It wasn't playful. It was pointed, emotional, and politically charged. Some viewed it as a calculated maneuver to amplify her brand during the downtime, while others saw it as a genuine expression of frustration from an athlete tired of the systemic inequalities in sports. In either case, the strategy was effective. The entire basketball world was focused on Sophie Cunningham yet again. Critics labeled her the master of off-season drama, accusing her of weaponizing outrage. Yet, even her detractors had to concede her understanding of modern sports media. In an era where visibility equals influence, staying in the conversation is half the struggle, and Sophie was clearly succeeding. Her engagement metrics shot up, and her name dominated basketball dialogues. However, beneath the bold persona was a deeper motive. Sophie wasn't merely seeking attention, she was demanding fairness for women in a system that often marginalizes them. Her hustle is not about ego, it's about survival in a sports world where silence leads to invisibility, and once more, Sophie proved that she refuses to be silent. As the dust began to settle from Sophie Cunningham's viral statement, public reaction became more polarized than ever. Her supporters lauded her as a courageous truth teller, an athlete unafraid to challenge the double standards in a world where female voices are frequently suppressed. Her critics, however, were unsparing, branding her comments as reckless and accusing her of attacking another athlete without the full picture. The online discourse quickly escalated into a fierce war of opinions, with hashtags and articles dissecting her every word. Other WNBA players were caught in the middle. Some privately agreed with Sophie's stance but stayed quiet to avoid potential backlash. A few, however, stepped up to support her publicly, praising her for vocalizing what they were all thinking. This support only intensified the media storm. Suddenly, Sophie was not just speaking for herself, she was being framed as the unofficial voice of the league's collective frustration. Every subsequent comment she made was magnified and replayed by media outlets searching for a headline. The criticism was not confined to social media. Some NBA fans accused her of disrespecting Rozier's legal rights, while others claimed she was making the issue solely about gender. The divide grew deeper, exposing a cultural friction that ran far beyond basketball. Sophie's blunt honesty had unearthed an uncomfortable truth. People may claim to value authenticity, but only until it disrupts their comfort zone. Through it all, Sophie held her ground. She did not retract her tweet or offer an apology. She stood by her words, refusing to let the criticism dilute her message. In later interviews, a calm yet defiant Sophie explained that her critique was not a personal attack, but a commentary on a system that repeatedly fails to hold power accountable. Yet, no matter how she explained it, public perception was already split. To some, she was fearless, to others, reckless. But either way, everyone was still talking about Sophie Cunningham. Beneath all the commotion, Sophie Cunningham's viral tweet uncovered something deeper than simple outrage. It exposed the emotional rift that has been simmering in professional sports for years. Her reaction to Terry Rozier's $26 million payout while under federal scrutiny wasn't just about one player's case. It connected with the frustration of athletes, fans, and ordinary people who believe that justice and fairness are often selectively applied. Sophie's message was potent because it was authentic, the type of raw honesty that cannot be engineered by a PR team. For many fans, her tweet was a direct reflection of their own anger. They see a system where the wealthy are insulated while soldiers, teachers, and first responders face immense struggles. Her remark about troops needing food pantries cut directly to the heart of that frustration. It wasn't a polished statement, it was real and unfiltered, which made it so powerful and also so perilous. In the current social media climate, such honesty can make you a hero one day and a villain the next. Sophie's stance also forced both leagues to face difficult reality. The WNBA promotes empowerment, yet its players grapple with financial precarity and a lack of media attention. The NBA presents itself as a model of fairness, yet moments like this show that money often trumps ethics. Sophie's outrage was a mirror, revealing how far sports still need to go to balance image with integrity. By speaking out, she risked her reputation and professional relationships, but in doing so, she reignited a crucial conversation about equality and accountability that extended far beyond basketball. Whether you loved her or hated her, you could not disregard her. Her voice was the spark that reminded everyone what happens when athletes deviate from the script and start speaking the truth. In the end, Sophie Cunningham's outburst was more than just a viral tweet. It became a landmark moment in the continuous fight for equity in sports. What began as frustration over Terry Rozier's $26 million salary blossomed into a national conversation about privilege, justice, and accountability. Sophie didn't merely call out a player, she indicted a system that too often protects the influential and mutes the rest. Whether her words are considered reckless or righteous, they resonated in a way that cannot be ignored. A single post reminded the world that a truth, once spoken, cannot be unsaid.